tried to get out, and the time was now.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another exciting episode of Sitting Down with Stand-Ups. I am your co-host, Justin Sakarica. As always, we have the tech wizard, the bean behind the scene, Daryl Bean, back there doing his thing, pushing all the buttons. And to my left, we have, once again, back in the saddle, the very lovely Elena Gonzalez. Elena, how are you?
Great. I love the pause of to my left.
Yeah, sometimes I confuse them. I'm like, left, right, yes, no, up, down. They're all the same. It's all the same. It doesn't even matter. So you were out last episode.
Yes.
But I am very glad to have you back. What has been going on? What have you been up to?
Just, avoiding Justin and Alex every chance I get. No, it's
They're calling you right now. They heard you. They heard you.
The sad thing is that is my phone because I'm an asshole who did not turn off my ringer.
That is no big deal at all. It adds to the ambiance. It probably really is.
Daryl.
It probably is Alex and Justin calling right now. Like, we know where you are. They're coming for you.
They are. Had a good weekend. Went to see Hamilton with the other interruption of this show.
Yes, the cameo of last show.
The cameo of a previous show. The lovely and talented Kara Karachi. But yeah, things are good. How about you? Did you have a good holiday?
I had a great holiday, a very low-key Thanksgiving. I had an amazing show last night at the Rusted Crow.
Ooh, I love that place.
Yes, it's an amazing place to get a good cocktail, hang out, or to see some great comedy. Had Tyler Nissen featuring for Bill Bashart. I, of course, hosted. Amazing room, amazing crowd. I was a little nervous because of the Big Ten Michigan game. I thought maybe that might kind of, throw a wrench in the works. Not at all. Every table was full. It was.
Oh, that's great.
It was a great time.
It's great because the Rusted Crow isn't set up to be a sports bar, so you knew that you weren't going to fight against it. But it's really glad that everybody still came out.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Because you can't plan for the fact that a team's going to do well in the beginning of the season. So, but yeah, it was a great time. But Elena, unfortunately, I do have some shocking news. This is breaking news. And this comes as a giant shock to me. I am floored by this right now. And if you can tell I'm being sarcastic, please comment that you know, because the Liver King, social media influencer, the Liver King, admitted that he is on steroids. Shocker. What a man that literally has a 14-pack and looks like a He-Man action figure and had thousands, possibly millions of people convinced that he was natural, admitted to his $11,000 a month steroid plan.
Yeah, $11,000 a month.
Yeah, and you saw the picture before the show.
I did. It does. Okay, here's a question for you. So $11,000 a month, taking supplements to get his body to look like it was.
Yes.
Or a one-time fee of a plastic surgeon to put in some plastic implants. Which would you rather go for?
Oh, I would go for the plastic implants all the way, because you could customize, like an action figure or a doll, like every month just get like a new skull cap with a different hairdo.
Have a little twist on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Get a crossbow. I don't know why you would put a crossbow. Why did I go with crossbow?
I have no idea. I
meant corkscrew. But yeah, it doesn't make sense. $11,000 for drugs just to make your abs never move.
And again, it's possible that he got ab implants, because if you watch his massive, Volkswagen-sized gut, it never moves. There's no contraction, no movement, and he made this really crazy apology video. I don't think he should have to apologize as much as the people that believed he was natural should apologize. How can you look at a man like that and think, oh yeah, he's eating raw liver, raw lung, and he's natural? It makes no sense. this guy literally had people potentially getting food poisoning to think that they were going to get jacked like him. It is madness, and I'm sure Daryl's going to crop in a picture for all those who don't know who the Liver King is. Yeah, it is. Color me shocked that a man with that physique was taking steroids. Wow, big shocker there.
So what is in that vein? It's
veins. He had several.
Yes,
several veins.
What's the point? So he's a social media influencer, but is he really gaining anything more by doing that?
He's losing his testicles by taking all those steroids. That's what he's doing.
Exactly.
Yeah, you know what? I just think he's a fucking weirdo. You know? And again, the people that can believe, like, you're going to get jacked and ripped like that at 40 years old by eating raw liver, man, I'm sorry. You are the ones that need to apologize to your friends and family who are like, dude, check out Liver King. He's jacked and so am I. Oh, why can't you come to dinner? I got food poisoning again, eating raw lung and liver. So, yeah, that is
Do they sell that at Kroger? Can you just get raw lung and liver?
You know what? I'm going to go there later on. I will check see.
But please check.
Yeah, I would much rather have something like a hamburger or some pizza.
Yeah, I wonder how long until we get, cage-fed lung and liver. Organic, USDA organic lung and liver.
I have no idea. I'm sure it's right down the road. I'm sure it's pretty close.
Well,
speaking of
Liver King sponsored, that's his endorsement deal.
Absolutely. Well, speaking of getting close, not too far away from me over here, pretty close to me. And again,
the master of transitions, ladies and gentlemen. Like, look how smooth that was.
Absolutely, yes. Yeah, follow me. Don't follow Liver King. Yes, my transitions are on steroids right now. Actually, they probably need to be. They need to be better. But anyway, not too far off to my right, we have one of my favorite guys in the Michigan comedy scene right now. This guy does it all. He performs, he produces his own show. He's also got his own podcast. This guy's an absolute gem. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to Sitting Down with Stand-Ups, the very funny and cool Sal Demilio. Sal, come on in here, man.
Right. Good to see you guys.
Good to see you, Sal. How have you been, man? How have you been?
Good. Hi.
Shooting across the room. Yeah, man. So you, I would ask you what you've been up to, but I think the appropriate question is, what have you not been up to, man? Because you're hitting all cylinders right now. You've got your own podcast. You're doing your own shows. You're producing your own shows, man. How do you do all that and still remain so cool?
No day job. No, just have time to do that stuff. Just trying to stay busy. Trying to stay busy, doing shows. Podcasts, I always say, helps the stage as well, because you kind of work stuff out, like you just did a little skit on the lung man there, or liver man, and you kind of work it out on podcasts, and you take it to the stage and try it out with a crowd.
So what's your monthly steroid budget?
Well, that's what I was listening to. That it was hysterical. How does he make $11,000 a month to do that?
Right.
So he was a millionaire.
Not to start jumping back into that, but I'm curious about the guy.
I want to say he was a millionaire before this all happened, and he just decided, well, instead of doing something good for other people, I'm just gonna blow it all on steroids and become a jacked freak.
I thought he invented Peloton.
Yeah, I mean, it's just.
But I don't know, $11,000 a month, Lena. I would do something else with $11,000.
Yeah, there's so much other.
Yeah, I would do like a $1,000 implant and then spend the other $10,000
on
casino and the other things.
At least more fun drugs. Like there's better stuff out there.
Yeah, ones that have not so permanent side effects.
True.
Tiny little balls. It happens. I mean, I wouldn't know, but Sal, you mentioned upstairs that you had recently done a show at a pizzeria. How was that?
I did. It was great. It was called Vito's Pizza. It's in Lincoln Park. The owner there, Christy, just contacted me a long time ago about she is a representative of a thing called Brace for the Future. It's to help kids get braces that can't afford them and stuff.
Oh, that's
so she wanted me to be a part of that and do some stand up, and they raised like $4,500 last night. So basically,
nice.
it's a full set of braces for one kid they did last night just by having that one show.
Oh, okay.
So it was really cool, and one of the doctors were there that kind of performs these surgeries, and it was just really cool to be a part of that, and to not only to do my craft of telling jokes, but to help a great cause and great thing.
That's
so
fantastic.
yeah, it was cool. It was a pizzeria, so you're kind of making do. I mean, I think there was like one of those basketball machines.
They're making dough, not
There you
do.
go.
Yeah, another
But
fun for
there's
you.
like a basketball machine in front of us when we're telling, because the way it was lined up or whatever. So there's people over here, and then there's some people over there. But you know what? It worked. And like you said earlier, there was the Michigan game was on. They kind of left a couple of TVs on. But all in all, like you said, for your show, people came out.
Yeah, and like, I always, I get nervous about every single show. I always want people to come, and I'm always like, hopefully we have a good crowd. And, it always turns out for the best, no matter what happens. But I'm always going to have that little bit of nervousness. Do you still get that when you produce a show, like wondering about ticket sales and like?
Yeah,
how much
you always do. It's the game you play. I mean, even look at even when a big movie star has a movie, they always look at the ratings like after the first night. They want to see their ticket sales, even though they're on a different level, obviously. But everybody wants to know how many tickets are sold for your show. So yeah, it gets a little nerve-wracking sometimes. Especially like here in Michigan, you might produce a show that's 2-3 months out, and you got it all lined up, but you don't realize a snowstorm is going to happen that day,
exactly.
So, but yeah, it's fun. I like doing it. And you've done some great stuff in the community with some shows and stuff.
I try, man.
Yeah.
It's what it like producing shows is what I really like to do, and I'm going to keep doing it as long as I'm not, becoming a millionaire and spending $11,000 on, I'll become the new liver king, the liver emperor, so to speak.
Yeah.
So, now the one show that a lot of people talk about that you are always a part of is Janetti's Hole in the Wall.
Yeah, it's a fun thing that I do with Bob Phillips. We started a podcast about a year before the pandemic. The idea for the podcast was mine. The idea for the Janetti show was Bob's, which is cool. We kind of collaborated different ways. But my idea for the podcast a long time ago was when I was in the business world, I always went to steakhouses like for meetings and stuff with the other salesmen or the company that you were dealing with. And we would always go to a steakhouse, and it was always like a really nice booth, obviously, because you're at a nice steakhouse. And we would just talk about topical things like before our business talk, we would talk about whatever, baseball or baseball's happening or sports, the weather, politics sometimes, or a story, like if we were meeting now, we'd probably be talking about the Idaho murders and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like what's going on in the day. And then years later, when I left the company and left the business world, I thought, what a cool idea for a podcast to be in a steakhouse booth. You promote the steakhouse, you're in the steakhouse booth, and you do a show, you talk about topics that I just discussed, and you're promoting the steakhouse, and you're promoting the comedians that are on there. That was my idea. And we did it. We started out, then the pandemic happened, so we couldn't get to steakhouses and do it, so then it kind of became what you're doing here, just at a studio. And but anyway, we've done it. We're at about almost over 200 episodes.
Oh, that's
fantastic!
And it's
Hell
still
yeah.
going. And we collaborated with Janetti's to do a stand-up show. So our Janetti show has nothing to do with our podcast. We don't do a podcast that night. It's straight stand-up. We put up either 2 or 3 showcase comedians that we see around town working. And then we either put up like a veteran headliner or something. Sometimes we change it up. We got musical guests. And so anyway, it's been a lot of fun. We do that monthly at Janetti's. And the owner of Janetti's is so great. She supports us. And
yeah,
so,
having an owner or a staff that supports your shows is key.
Big time,
I mean, if they
big
don't
time.
support you,
It's tough.
It is tough.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to have somebody who is on board with
Yep.
it. And, luckily for me, the Rusted Crow and the Bearded Lamb, I mean, they are all on board. So, again, thank you all so much. Brandy and Allison and Ryan, you guys are rock stars. Thank you. If you're watching, probably not. So,
So are you? And I know that it's hacky to go. Let's talk about when you started. But I'm gonna hit you with some of those questions.
Yeah,
but
that's okay.
Are you originally a downriver guy? Are you? What's your?
No, I'm
Where's
not.
Baby
That's
Sal?
what's kind of weird. I know I ended up kind of doing some shows at Portofino and a lot of downriver. That was introduced to me a long time ago by a guy named Nick Guerra, who his wife owns or runs La Bisteca, which is on this side of town.
Great
but they had
restaurant.
Portofino's on that side of town, so La Bisteca was a little too small to do a show. So they said, "Hey, we run another restaurant at Portofino's, and why not?" So that's kind of how that started. But I pretty much cut my teeth in comedy in this area, which is Livonia. I started at Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle with Bill Bushard. We took a comedy class. And back then, there was a lot of more clubs. There wasn't a lot of the one-nighters that you see now, like what you're doing. A lot of people didn't do that because there was just so many clubs. The only really one-nighter that I remember really was Club Bart, which was on Thursday at 10:30, and a lot of comics would congregate there every week. But it wasn't like it is today where you have all these, which is great. You have all these bar gigs and people starting bar. So back then, it was a little harder to get up on stage unless you can get into the clubs, but there was a lot more clubs. So it's kind of a weird dilemma, like how it's so much different now because there's less clubs, but more kind of one-nighters and bar gigs and stuff. But that's how I started, just with Bill. We took a comedy class, then we started just doing open mics and getting MC gigs at Chaplin's, and there was 2 Joeys at that time, and you could work all of them all month and get a lot of work and just get a lot of reps in. And it was good. A lot of guys left for LA and New York, and it was like, first of all, I had a day job when I started, but I also didn't want to go just because you could work so much in your own town and in the Midwest, and I still to this day feel like that. I just want to be a stand-up. I don't care about having a sitcom or nothing like that. That's not my forte. I just like doing stand-up comedy, and so that's what I've been doing for 24 years. So
Now, if you did have a sitcom, what do you think?
I'm not saying I would say no to it. But you know what I mean. It wasn't my goal. My goal when I started doing open mics was just to do I wish because I don't know about you guys, but I always used to look at stand-up and go, wow, there's no way I could do that. Like in my 20s, I used to be like, there's no way I can do that. Well, you know what? You can do it. You just start with 5 minutes. I thought you had to have 30 minutes right off the bat. You don't. You just get 10 minutes and you roll with it, and you just keep adding on to it. But once you get that 10 minutes, you can work anywhere.
Yep. Yeah, it's so true.
Yeah.
Is there a place on your list of places that you haven't played yet that you want to? Whether it's here in Michigan or just in the country, a club that you haven't worked, or
that's a good question. I don't know. I think it's like you always hear about. Like I got to do a set at the Laugh Factory, just just a set out in LA, because you're just like, okay, it's it's just such a iconic place. But so I think probably doing a set like at the Comedy Cellar or the Comedy Store would be really cool.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure if I lived in those towns, I could probably do like a 2 a.m. show or something.
Right.
But that would be cool to do a show there, just because I've seen so many shows there. Like I went and saw, and the Hermosa Comedy Club. I used to see Jay Leno there every Sunday night when I spent a lot of time in LA, and I would go out there just to watch him. So that would be a cool stage to be on. But I guess other than that, I did Caroline's in New York. That was kind of a cool experience. Yeah. So I guess just those iconic stages would be cool to be on, just because they've been around so long.
Yeah. Do you have anybody in particular who you would have, living or dead, loved to work with?
Yeah, probably for me, Rodney Dangerfield.
Oh yeah, I love me some Rodney Dangerfield. Yeah,
I mean, he's probably one of the reasons I, really started doing stand up, because I used to like him so much when I wasn't thinking about doing stand up. I would watch him and just be like, man, this guy is the best, and then, he just was like one of my inspirations.
Yeah, the way he could just fire off those one
lines, incredible.
Like if you go watch it, like if you go back and watch his clips when he was on like Johnny Carson, I mean, that's
the
way he can fire him off is like it's so. I'm very envious of the way that he can do that so seamlessly.
Yeah, and I love it back then too. On the Carson, he would do stand up for like 7 minutes, and then he would go sit on the couch, and they wouldn't interview like we're interviewing. He would just do more stand up, but he'd be sitting down with stand ups.
Nice, very good.
But I love that. They don't do that anymore. Now they come over and it's like, what are you working on? What movie you working on? But he was doing stand up like when he would be on stage, and then he'd come over and just start doing more material. It was great.
Oh yeah, I've heard a couple different stories about like watching him work out material, and he would just go up there, stack of index cards, and just say it flat as could be, no emphasis, just say it. If he got something, anything, it goes to the left. If it doesn't, he throws it to the right. And he was just going like a fucking machine.
Yeah.
And then he'd go back to the ones that he kept, and then he'd give it some emphasis. Those were the ones that he played with. And to be able to create that much burnable material and just go through is a testament to just how great he was.
Exactly. I mean, and it's just like, I wish I had the confidence to like go up there and try that. But, because again, like if you've got a big stack of index cards, you got to think probably 75% of them aren't going to work. And you just got to take those punches, and you got to, like you said, you focus on the ones that are working, fine tune them a little bit, go from there, and then just kind of, put them into your set.
It's the way you tell a joke the first time you try it is obviously not going to be the way you tell it. Not the last time you try it, but the 20th time you say it, you're saying it a little different,
Yeah.
So you find in little nuances of it.
What's your writing process? Do you just kind of like do you ever sit down and write, or do you just kind of like wait for things to inspire you and go from there?
I do. I do both. I don't know. It's really weird. I don't write on my phone or on my computer. I write on a legal pad.
A lot of people do that. Yeah.
I got like 1,000 legal pads all around my, with old jokes on them and stuff. But I can't seem to write. Like type on a computer and log it, and I don't know why. That's just not me. Maybe it's old school, but so I got ideas all over the place, and I just kind of figure stuff out. Like here's something new that I just wrote, and I'm just kind of working it out or whatever. But I'm living with my dad now, and now I'm finding a lot of dad material, which is great, right? But the other day, this is a true story. Because now that I'm living with him, I'm seeing little things that he does that you don't see when you're not living with somebody.
Right.
And one of the things is when he changes the I guess I call it the clicker. What am I supposed to call it? Somebody made fun of me.
The
is
remote?
it the remote?
The
Okay,
remote,
I called it the clicker, and somebody made fun of me
The
for
clicker.
that.
Yeah.
But anyway, the remote, what he does is if he wants to watch channel 14, he presses the 1, but then he takes like a sip of coffee, looks out the window. And I'm like, Dad, you got to do the 1 and the 4 together because you're just watching channel 1 all the time, or else you're going to 4 after that so he can never do it. So I'm like, if it wasn't for me, he would never be watching anything past channel 9. So that's one of the real material that I think is something that's really happening to me, and I kind of try to take it to the stage. I'm sure you guys do the same
Oh
thing.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I write that way, and sometimes I write by just trying to read stories or just watching things or just looking at stories that are going on or topical stuff, and then stuff that's happening to me in my life or whatever. And I kind of just jot down. I'll have an idea, maybe some tags or some phrases and stuff, and then I work them out on stage. I just bring it up in the middle of my set so it doesn't look like I'm trying something new.
Gotcha. Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you said that you have like a bunch of jokes on like legal pads written all over your house. So basically, if somebody ever breaks into your house and they come up missing, like 3 months down the road, you're going to see somebody at an open mic telling the jokes,
God.
and you know.
You just scared the hell out of me. If something happens to me, it would look like... No, that's me. Sorry. That was me.
I'm so glad I'm not the only
That's your
one.
dad.
These are all bot calls, by the way. I get so many bot calls. I don't know what the hell is going on.
It's your dad. He's like, hey, I can't get the channel 14 again, Sal. What's going on, Ralph?
What were we talking about?
About somebody coming into your house.
Oh yeah. So anyway, they would just see. It would look like it would just look crazy, like a bunch of legal. But it's not that bad. But,
Writings of a madman.
Yeah. But anyway, that's how I do it. I just do it that way. Everybody's got different writing techniques. So.
Yeah.
No, I found that I was very. So my start was in radio, and I've just been more of an audio person my whole life. So when I started doing stand-up, what I would do is record myself at open mics or talking to myself in my car or talking to myself getting ready for work or whatever. And so I had all these audio clips.
Yeah.
And true son that I was in my 40s, I thought I was doing it right, where I was backing everything up to the cloud. And then my son threw my phone in the toilet, and I learned that I was not backing things up as I thought I was.
So you had all that kind of ideas and
then it was like early on in the pandemic. So when it first happened, I was like, oh, because I don't know if this is the same for you, but I have an okay like short-term memory of what I'm working on and what I'm doing, but as soon as I kind of fall out of that muscle memory, I struggle to find it again. And so when it first happened, I was like, oh, I'll be fine. Like, these are jokes I'm doing all the time. And now it's been 2 years later, and I'm like, what was that one again?
It's unbelievable what you just said, because I'm so, it's like one time, that's why I try to have like some sort of legal pad, or even like those hotel legal pads that they'll give you for free.
Yep.
Like I collect those. Like I never leave those. I put them in because it's paper, right?
Exactly.
But what you just said, Elena, one time I thought of a good joke. Like it was, you ever just think of something, you're like, oh man, that would be really good for this. I was walking into the bank, whatever, when I thought of it. I didn't write it down. 2 minutes later, had no clue what it was. I'm like, God damn, what was that? That was a good idea. I think I could have really did something, but I could not remember what the freaking idea was.
It
so
drives
I
you
have
crazy.
to write something down, or like you said, Elaine, I'm screwed. My short-term memory must not be that great. My long-term memory is great.
Yeah, exactly.
I know the bits that that I've done for a long time. I don't forget those for some reason. Even bits that I haven't done in maybe in a couple years, and I just think of it before I go up on stage, or maybe it's Christmas time, and I say, oh, yeah, I had that one Christmas joke. And I'll think of it, and I still know how to do that joke, even though I haven't said it on stage in a couple years. But my short-term stuff, like if I think of a good idea, 30 seconds later, I forget it.
Mitch Hedberg has a joke where, I'm not going to do the joke because I won't remember it and I'll kill it. But the premise was basically, if I wake up in the middle of the night with a joke, I either need to write it down immediately or convince myself it wasn't funny.
Yes.
That's great. That's great. I'm seeing a lot of his clips for some reason on the algorithm on TikTok or whatever. He was such a brilliant.
Oh, he was.
I mean, when you see his stuff again, you're like, oh my God, that you just remember how good he really was.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think that he had extreme stage fright too.
Yeah.
That's why like he's always kind of shaken, and that's why he wore the glasses, because like he was petrified, but man, he was so talented.
Yeah.
But like it's crazy to think like how many comedians do have like stage fright or anxiety or something like that, like you wouldn't think it until they actually tell you, dude, I'm shitting bricks up there.
Yeah, or think about how many stand-up comics never became like there's probably a lot of writers out there that just didn't want to become stand-up because of what you just said.
Yeah.
But they're brilliant writers.
Oh yeah.
So they still get jobs and they're still in the business, but they don't perform.
And on the other side, how many people get up there just because they're not afraid? But they might not have the other side.
Yeah, they have no shame is what it is. Yes, there's no shame in there, and you're just like, wow, okay.
It takes a little bit more than being able to hold the microphone, just a touch.
3 minutes of my life I'm not getting back, and he's got 7 more to go. Oh, good Lord, yeah.
That's funny.
Have you ever had an instance of stage fright or mind blank? You get up there and you're like, oh.
Yeah, I have. I've had that done a couple times where I just like one night I just lost my place in my act and I just lost it. Man, it was like, I think I just started talking to somebody in the front row for a few minutes just to try to get but it was definitely just a weird thing. It's just I just went blank for maybe 2-3 minutes and then I got back on track.
Yeah,
But it did happen, and it just happens. Sometimes you just kind of get in that. It's a weird space. Like, well, I always tell this to a lot of comics. I was working in Dayton, Ohio, with a girl named I think her Laura Kilmartin. Lori Kilmartin. Hopefully I said her first name right. Great comedian. I opened up for all week in Dayton. The Saturday show, we're driving there together. She goes, "Have you ever done 3 shows in one night?" And I go, "God, it's weird that you just asked me that." No, I haven't. She goes, "I'm going to give you some advice. Do the exact same act the same way all 3 shows." She goes, "Trust me, do it." Do I do it? No. I just go all over the place. And during the 3rd show, every joke I was saying, I thought I already said to that crowd. Because it was a mind F. Like, I don't know if I can swear on here.
Fuck.
But
you can say it.
It was a mind fuck where I thought every joke, because I had already said those jokes twice earlier in the night. But now I thought I was saying them to the same crowd. It was the weirdest feeling. And I got off the stage and Lori goes, "You didn't listen to me." Because she knew I was going crazy. You could see it on my face. Every time, and people would laugh at the joke and I'd be like, "Oh, okay, they're laughing. I must not have said that one." And then if a joke, let's say, didn't work, I didn't know if it was because they already heard it. So it was the biggest mindfuck ever that I ever had. So now every time I do 3 shows in one night, I do the exact same set.
Just on repeat.
The same way, because you don't want to get that way in your head again, you know.
Now, have you ever accidentally,
fascinating.
during the same set, told the same joke twice?
Oh yeah, I've done that a couple times just in a one show night.
Yeah, and you're just kind of
yeah,
like, wait
you
a
just
minute.
kind of you just kind of do it over because I switch my things up. I don't have like a permanent closer. I don't even have a permanent opener, and I just kind of change things up. And sometimes being like that can get you into trouble. So,
Yeah.
so you know.
Yeah, it's weird though. Like if you do tell the same joke in a set and the crowd still laughs, and you're like, "That's a really fucking good joke."
Yeah, yeah.
That's a great joke.
Yeah, you can
Like
play it off.
so
Like,
much.
yeah, I want to tell you that one again.
Yeah,
You know?
should just keep going on repeat. You know, it's like watching your favorite clips on YouTube just over and over and over again. Now, one thing that I want to ask you a little bit is your background, because you are obviously a very proud Italian man.
Yep.
What? Sal's Italian?
Yeah, Sal Demilio.
I'm
You
just
never-
finding this out.
Yeah.
This is wow. First the Liver King on steroids, and now Sal's
Exactly.
Italian.
I know it's shocking. I mean, you might want to sit
Yeah,
down for
I
this a
don't
little
like
bit.
it. My name has nothing to do with Italians. My nose isn't crooked.
You know, it's great. People always think that I'm Italian. They look at me and they're like, "Oh, but you know, buongiorno." I'm like, "What?"
Yeah,
no.
yeah.
I'm Polish as they come.
Yeah.
Now I know a lot of your material has a lot to do with your Italian background.
Yep.
Now when you were growing up and you were younger, like at that point, did you know that you wanted to be a comedian, or were these just kind of stories and things that you kind of kept in the back of your head for when you got older and decided?
Yeah, no, I never really. Well, I never thought I was going to be a comedian when I was younger. I liked stand-up comedy, though, like we talked about, but I never thought I would do it. But I liked certain comics, like I said, Rodney and all that. But then in the late 90s, I found a guy by the name of Ray Romano, and I'm like, oh, my God, this guy, he's exactly like I would be if I was a stand-up comic, because he talks about his family, talks about his Italian mother and all that. So it was something that, and obviously I didn't want to, like, you know, just be like him, but I'm like, okay, well, if I do stand-up comedy, I'll do what he does and talk about his Italian family, which is totally different than my family and my experiences. And that's kind of what I did when I first started. So it was like really what Ray Romano's doing. I just tried to, and now Sebastian Maniscalco's taking it to another level, which is great to see. You know, European comedians making it big in this country.
Yeah,
I love it. You know, guys like Jeff Jeffries is popular from Australia, and there's different. There's just so many different cultural ethnicity comics now.
Yes.
It's great because you learn about their culture, all of them. It's awesome.
Yeah, and it's crazy because in the Detroit scene, there's a lot of Italian comedians. We've got Sal Demilio, Carrie Caracci, Paul Pepitone, Tom Massey, and everybody's very... Oh, yeah, Paulo, how do you say his last name?
Paulo Buzignani.
There you go.
It took me 5 years to learn how to say his name.
Well, it's going to take
Proud
me
to
probably
say it
10,
now.
so...
Because you got to do the hand.
Yeah.
It helps with the pronunciation. Buzignani.
Yeah. But there's a lot of Italian comedians and obviously cultural different comedians in this town, which is great. You know?
Yeah, I mean, one day maybe I'll make my
Polish.
Yeah. Polish?
There's got to be a ton of Polish comics, but
There's
not
got to be a... Look for the ones wearing socks and sandals on stage. Then you'll know who the Polacks are out there, yeah. It's crazy because, you know, like, I've tried to think of some good like Polish material. I mean, obviously my grandma was an absolute gem. I do have some jokes though that I can't tell them because it would break some family members' hearts if I did. So yeah, can't do it. But
well, here's a Polish joke you can have. I always say this. I've never said this on stage. You can have it. I always say pierogies is really ravioli with no sauce.
Yeah,
That's all that is.
Yeah, it is.
So you're really Italian in a way. You just gotta get tomato sauce in your life.
Yeah, which I do love some tomato sauce. I've got a can of ragu upstairs right now.
Sounds like Sal just called you bland.
He did, yeah. I am bland. No, I'm very bland.
No, you're so good. Just not.
Yeah, I'm like French vanilla, not vanilla. I'm extra bland.
When you started talking about Sal as young Sal, I thought you were going to ask what his neighborhood nickname was growing up. That's where I thought you were going.
My neighborhood nickname. Well, my friends started calling me Sally D. Sally D was always.
That's like a DJ name.
Oh,
yeah.
That's
not really when I was a kid. Not really when I was a kid. When I became, when I was like in college, my friends started calling me Sally D. And then one of my friends met one of my coworkers at Arizona. I used to work for Arizona Beverages, which is a huge company out of New York. And I had all these people that I knew from the office. Well, one day, one of my coworkers heard one of my school friends say Sally D. and that was the end of it. He's like, you just called him Sally D, and I became Sally D to everybody in my company that I worked with, and it was like that name stuck.
That is an amazing nickname.
So you're telling me if I would have met you some years back, I could have been loaded with iced tea?
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much.
Man.
Yeah. I used to get that stuff pretty good.
What's your favorite flavor of that?
I like I still drink it, the Arnold Palmer. I like the Arnold Palmer. I've always liked the Arnold Palmer. I always been ordering Arnold Palmer forever. I mean, I've always ordered that when I go golfing or even just having lunch or something. I always say Arnold Palmer. For those of you who don't know, it's lemonade and iced tea together. It's just so great.
So surprising to me that, he's of course very famous, and the drink is very famous, but so many people, myself included, have a hard time saying it, that I don't understand how it's how it sticks around. Because like Arnold Palmer, like just the
tongue twister,
tongue twisters.
Yeah, okay,
but
right.
It's on every
It's one of the only drinks I think ever in the history where it was never created like Pepsi and Coke were created.
Right.
You know what a Pepsi and a Coke is because it was created with billions of dollars of advertising. Arnold Palmer was not created by nobody. It was just created by people walking into a golf course lounge and saying, I want an Arnold Palmer because they heard stories of Arnold. In actuality, I know the real story. The real story, who I heard directly from Arnold Palmer, was the original Arnold Palmer, swear to God, is iced tea and pink lemonade. His grandmother, Arnold Palmer's grandmother, made it with pink lemonade. So that was actually the very first Arnold Palmer, but then he changed it to regular lemonade because people didn't have pink lemonade. Only his grandmother made it, So that's the original story behind it, and it was really cool hearing that right from Arnold Palmer's mouth one day.
How did that
we got to meet him at Bay Hill when we did the contract to do the drink for him, our company. We got to meet him and go golfing with him and stuff like that.
Oh my God, you went golfing with Arnold Palmer.
Yeah. Well, not golfing with him, but golf on the same course on the same time. I wasn't his partner or whatever.
I would still say I golf with Arnold Palmer.
The details scant. This is kind of funny. I was we were playing the course, and this one particular day we all had caddies, and my caddy goes, "Do you want to meet? Are you looking forward to meeting Arnold Palmer tonight?" And I go, "Oh, I can't wait to meet him tonight." And he's like, "Well, do you want to meet him sooner?" And I go, "Yeah. How can we do that?" He goes, "Well," and you know how you can see the course from just like the top of a tee box or something. Yeah. He goes, "Well, there's Arnold right there. He's on number 8. He's gonna finish 9, and then he's gonna go in and literally get an Arnold Palmer and a hot dog, and you can catch him there and maybe say hi to him or have him sign something." I said, "How am I gonna get over there?" He goes, "I'm your caddy. Let's go." So we hopped in a golf cart in the middle of our round, drove all the way to the clubhouse. As we timed it perfectly, Arnold was coming out with his hot dog and his Arnold Palmer. I said, "Mr. Palmer, I work for Arizona Beverages. I'll see you tonight. It's a pleasure to work for you and sell your product." Blah 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 blah. Right.
Right.
And I go, "Will you sign my scorecard?" Because I brought my scorecard with me. He goes, "Well, that's all you want is a scorecard sign?" I go, "Well, that's all I have." And he goes, "Well, there's my pro shop right there." And I go, "Well, wait a minute, you're going to wait for me? Because I'll go in and buy like $1,000 worth of stuff and then have you sign everything." He goes, "Whatever you bring out, I'll sign." So I went in that store. I bought hats. I bought a golf ball. I'm not kidding you. I spent like $400 on this shit in there, that anything that he could sign. I brought it all out like I was carrying Christmas presents. And he signed every single one of them. I got back in that golf cart with the caddy, and we drove back to my hole, the hole that I was playing. And I thanked that caddy that day, and I was like, and I still have that signed memorabilia now.
That is so cool. I mean,
and you screwed over his lunch because then he walked away with a cold ass hot dog
and lukewarm Arnold Palmer. Yeah,
that's true. So I've never told that story other than the sitting down with stand-up.
It's an exclusive.
That's a great story, man. You know, we've heard some pretty good stories.
There's a couple other salesmen that were with me, so if they see this, they're going to be like, "Wait a minute, Sal, I was with you." There was a couple other salesmen that came with me in that golf cart, and they went in and bought shit too. So he literally signed like a lot of stuff that day. Like you said, Elena, his hot dog got cold.
If you want to come on and tell your story, then we'll, If you're watching this and you want to tell your version of the police story, reach out to Justin.
Exactly,
we'll
we'll try and squeeze you in. I don't know. You know, we're a pretty big deal. We got 11 subscribers, man. I don't know. Might be hard to fit you in.
But speaking of that, Elena, I don't know if you're like that or Justin, but I took my my business experience, and I kind of it helped me for the stage because vice versa, because I used to speak in front of salesmen a lot even before I did stand-up. So I think that's maybe why I transitioned into stand-up a little easier than somebody else. Did you guys have that in your life, or were you guys speaking in your other life?
I would say I did. I started in radio, and then I did event marketing and advertising, and I was very much like hosting events and presenting and all of that. And similar to what you said before, I was a stand-up fan forever, but it never clicked in my brain that I would do that. You know, you talk smack at parties and you do this, but it just never, I never put two and two together until I had my son, and a friend of mine was like, oh, you should do this. And the first time I got up on stage, I was like, oh, wait a second, what?
Yeah.
But I do think that it's an entirely different muscle in my brain, you know, like being funny on purpose and going there, but I didn't have any of the fright of holding a microphone or you know, walking around on stage in front of strangers or anything. Right,
which is it's a huge you know, huge advantage, because a lot of people have to get over that when they start stand up.
Yeah,
you know,
but you know, I started in my late 30s.
Yeah,
so
I started when I was 30. So
okay, yeah. So it is kind of like I needed any little boost to get ahead of the 18-year-olds. Yeah.
Yeah, I just love to hear myself talk. So, you know, and I mean, stand-up is something that I always wanted to do, and it's crazy because at first I was very intimidated by it. I'm like, man, you know, it's going to be hard, and then I went on a date to an open mic night at Mark Ridley's, and I got very arrogant because I'm like, these people don't know what they're doing. I could easily do that, not knowing that an open mic is where you practice the material.
You're that guy.
Yeah, so then it went from being intimidated to being arrogant, but then I called up Joey's. I'm like, hey, you know, I want to go up and, you know, and try and tell some jokes. And I remember at work, the day of my debut, I was watching videos of people bombing, and I'm like, oh, shit. I'm like, what have I gotten myself into?
Did you, the person that you went on a date with, did that turn into a longer relationship? Did they come and see you?
Last date.
Gotcha.
Yeah, last date. Yeah, no, she was...
Well, probably because you took her to an open mic.
She wanted to go.
She wanted you to take her to Fleming's or something.
Yeah, Fleming's is great. Yeah, no, she was cool, but yeah, that ended up being our last date. But it's crazy because I did have like a 2-year break in stand-up when I got into a very serious relationship where that particular ex like didn't like me doing stand-up, and I was too much of a pussy to, you know, say no, I want to keep doing this. And you know, so luckily when that ended, I'm like, no, I want to get back into doing it. But yeah, no, it was her idea to go to the open mic, and I was like, I think, who's this guy up there telling jokes? Because it was funny because I'll never forget, there was a guy up there that told a joke about cookies, and he was like, what's the deal with ingredients in cookies? I mean, what's in snickerdoodles, like laughs and little drawings? And I'll never forget, a lady in the audience went, oh, honey, I believe there's cream of tartar in there. And I was like, oh, she got your ass, bitch. I can do this. And yeah, and then like the day of my performance, I was like, oh, God, I'm going to go up there and I'm going to fucking bomb. And I was all nervous.
Did you have that killer cream of tartar joke? Like locked and loaded?
I had it ready. It was in my back pocket. I'm like, man, if I get into a pitch, I'm going to whip it out. But I didn't do too bad. But I remember going back and watching my performance. I was talking like a million miles an hour with no break. I was like, and like, because I was so nervous. That. But yeah, I mean, it went well enough to where I'm like, you know what, I liked it. I want to try it again, and you know, things started spiraling and getting better and better. Like I said, just you know, got into a relationship where the majority of my time was spent with my ex, and you know, it just unfortunately I didn't have enough, you know, gusto to say, hey, this is one of my favorite hobbies, I want to do it. And you know, you live and you learn, and you find somebody who's going to appreciate what you do and not try to, you know, hold you back. And you gotta have support. And now you're in the set.
Exactly. Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's
just be crazy.
Yeah. So, well, speaking of other hobbies, is there anything else? I know that you're a huge football fan. So, is that something else that you love?
Yeah, I love sports. I love football. I talk about that in my act as well. And then also I like to golf in the summertime. So comedy goes real well with golf because a lot of times you get these casino gigs up north or whatever, and then you can golf, before the show. There's other comics, guys like Mark Knope and Billy Ray Bauer and all these guys golf too. So when I work with those guys, it's like, hey, let's bring the clubs, So that's, again, part of how great this job is, You get... You're only working, if things are going well and you're getting a lot of gigs, you're only working 45 minutes a night,
Yeah,
and that's
amazing.
it. You got the rest of the day, and look, I also got, I do this little courier thing part-time just to make some extra, I mean, everybody's got something that they do, and if you start, but the thing is, I always have the kind of part-time job where if I get a tour or somebody says, hey, you want to go on the road with me or whatever, I can do it. I can't have a full-time job right now because I'm just doing too much work on the other side. But yet, again, you can't look, there's guys that have been on the Tonight Show that are Uber drivers out in LA. It's okay. It's okay to have a
little side gig.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, sorry, go ahead.
If nothing else, it's for the story.
Exactly, yeah.
Correct.
Because you can always say, I ruined Arnold Palmer's lunch one day. Now, you have also performed before. Haven't you gone and performed for, Pepsi Corporate?
Yeah, I used to do... it was kind of weird when I started doing stand-up and then still had my day job. I would do a lot of our sales meetings. I would literally, my boss would be like, hey, you want to do stand-up? And that's how I started doing a lot of corporate shows. Then I'm like, well, wait a minute, if I'm doing it for my own company, I can maybe do it for other companies. So I started doing it for 7-Up. I sent a bunch of beverage companies my tape of me doing it at my company.
Yeah.
And it was kind of funny because one time I was going to do 7-Up, and my boss was like, "Hey, why don't you try to find out some stuff?" Because they didn't know I worked for Arizona. I was just going there as a comedian,
Right?
And they're like, "Oh, maybe you can find out some pricing on an item that we don't know about." It was kind of funny. I was going incognito to find out stuff, but I did that a lot, and so I've done a lot of corporates. I performed at Yankee Stadium in one of the suites. I performed at Ford Field in one of the suites for a company, that they wanted me to perform during a halftime of a game or so. So I've done a lot of that kind of stuff, which is pretty cool. Sometimes it can be sometimes when you go into a situation I just did a Christmas party a month ago where it was for they were fun. For some reason somebody on there sees this because they have a lot of friends on Facebook. I had fun, okay, but it was a little crazy, and they'll admit it, they'll know it. It was for literally a Costco location, so it was the Christmas party for this employees of the Costco location, and they had a big dinner. There was a DJ, and then they wanted me to do comedy, and then they had all these prizes what is that? The silent elephant, or what the hell is that?
White elephant.
White elephant.
Yeah, white elephant.
They did one of those or whatever, and then they gave away some stuff. Well, they were going to do that after me. But they decided to do it before me. So when they did it before me, they had eaten dinner. They had filled guts with cake and all that.
Yeah.
Then they got all their whatever, not bonuses or maybe bonuses.
Not bonus.
And then they got their prizes and all that. And then literally the last thing this lady says is, "Don't no one leave. We have a stand-up comedian."
Oh my God!
She literally had to say, "Don't no one leave."
You were the punishment.
So all these people were literally almost getting up to leave before she said that. Then they had to sit back down. So I had to do comedy for 75 people that didn't want to be there anymore. They were done.
My
and
God.
it was it was how it went. I mean, it was just they just pull teeth and you just do it. But those aren't the fun ones,
No, yeah.
I don't know if you guys have done any of those.
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say the before the pandemic, I did a corporate, a smaller corporate Christmas party, and it was almost exactly that. I had done a one-nighter out in Owasso, and a woman in the crowd was HR for this trucking company, and she's like, "Oh my God, you gotta come do this, and it's gonna be great." And had other couple great comics with me, and it was the same thing. And I've done enough events that we talked before, and they're like, "Okay, we're gonna do dinner and then comedy, and then we're doing the bonus and the gifts after." And we show up, and as we walk in, the president is talking to her, going, yeah, I really think you should do the gifts before. Like, we should do that at dinner. And I'm like, no. But yeah, it was set in motion, and they're, they've digested, they've had a couple drinks, and they're just like,
you're like, whatever, yay.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, some of them probably worked that day and went right from work, and so they're just gassed at the end of the night. It's not a normal stand-up situation.
Yeah.
Some people were just talking, not caring, and nobody was telling them to shut up. And I can't tell them to shut up. It might be the person paying me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now a comedy club setting, I can shred them.
Oh,
people,
yeah.
Yeah.
But,
so you were talking a bit about, doing corporates. How was that initially, telling your job that you do stand up? Was it like, oh, that's great, of course you do because you're funny, or was there any sort of hesitancy on your side or any sort of weirdness on their side?
Yeah, it's a good question, Elaine. I know the moment that I kind of went over the other side, I had been doing, this is probably, I want to say it was like 2002, 2003. So I had been doing stand-up for only 6 years. And I remember we were, the owner of our company was building his house, so we couldn't meet at his house. So we were having our meetings at this Long Island Marriott or whatever. Every month we would have this meeting at Long Island Marriott. I'll never forget it. And one day I'm checking in, and this sign says open mic comedy tonight in the lounge. I'm like, ah. So this one girl that knows, now again, I was only 6 years in, so I wasn't letting everybody at the company know that I do stand-up. And one of the girls knew I did stand-up, so she went and talked to the person, and then she obviously talked to our owner. But anyway, Sal's doing stand-up tonight in the bar. We're going to get to see Sal. He's kind of been doing some open mics for a while.
Yeah.
And I did really well that night, and that was the night where my company knew I did stand-up.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then after that, it was like, then social media became a little bigger, and then they saw me doing a lot of shows. And I'll be honest with you, sometimes I would be low key on there because I didn't want to make it look like I was just doing stand up full time. I've had a full time job. So it is a tough little gauge. I really did work hard for my company, and I also was working hard at stand up, but sometimes it probably looked bad to some people in the company. It never looked bad to my boss or my owners. They kind of knew that I was doing my job, but I'm sure coworkers were like, "What the hell is that guy doing? Is he a salesman, or is he Rodney Dangerfield?" I'm sure people said that, but you just do it, and then there comes a time where you just like, okay, what I'm making a little bit of money doing stand up, and that's when I decided to quit. My mom was sick. And I'm like, you know what? I'd rather spend more time with my mom and work at night, and that's what I did. And I just never looked back. Hell with it,
Nice. Now, when people learned that you were a comedian, how many of them were like, "Hey, Sal, tell me a joke. Hey, here's a joke that I want you to tell on stage." Did you get that bombardment of people?
From people on the business side?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know how much time we got. I'm gonna tell you one real quick story. This is the most. This is what stand-up can do on the business side. I swear.
Love it.
I used to cover all the Midwest, and I was meeting these new distributors out in Minnesota. So I had to fly in and meet these guys. Arizona, they were going to take on Arizona. They got a contract. That wasn't my idea. It was the contract and everything. I was just the repping them. I show up. They're literally treating me like shit. They're just not being nice to me, not giving me anything to drink. They didn't want to go out to lunch with me, nothing. And I had to be there all week. And so I did that on Monday. And then Tuesday I came in, treated me like crap. And then one of the guys says, "So what do you do at night when you're here?" I go and do stand-up comedy. They're like, "What?" I go, "I do stand-up. I'm just doing an open mic at blah, blah, blah." So 4 of the guys go, "Well, I'm not doing anything tonight. I'm gonna come out." And I says, "Okay." Now, mind you, they've been treating me like crap. They saw me do stand-up that night. I did really, really well. The next day, they treated me like a freaking god. They loved me. They took on my product. They did all these programs that were tough. And I literally called my boss on Thursday night on the way home. He goes, "Hey, how did it go?" I said, "Well, I got this done. He goes, "Man, how did you get that done?" I'm like, "Stand-up comedy." I swear, it was because they just saw me in a different light after that. I don't know if you guys have a story like that, or if you guys have ever had that happen, but that happened to me. And it's like, stand-up, when people find out you do stand-up, it's just a different thing in the business side of the world, in the business world.
Yeah, for me, it's always like, oh, hey, tell me a joke. I'm like, look, just why don't you come to a show?
Yeah.
Or, hey, I got a really funny joke I want to tell you.
But they did that after, you're right. So after, when we're having lunch on Friday before I'm leaving or whatever, they're like, oh, yeah, me and my wife, we watch Chris Rock, and, I have this one joke. You're right. They treated me differently because I did stand-up. If I wouldn't have done the stand-up, they would have just treated. I hate to say it, but they were being rude to me, and
you would not have become Sally D. You would have stayed Sal Demilio in their eyes.
But it was a good. So sometimes stand-up helps in that way. It helps kind of get relationships going on the business side.
Yeah,
it really does.
Yeah, I agree. And my job is very supportive of the fact that I do stand-up comedy. I mean, some of my coworkers and my boss have come and watched me, a few times. And there was actually a time when it was for the president's, I think it was his 40th or 50th birthday. I forget, that's a pretty big gap, but they wanted me to come do a stand-up set. And then, the day before, they're like, we need to keep it clean. And I'm like, I'm not really a clean comedian, so it's probably not a good idea. But they understood. But, yeah, they're very supportive of me. But it's like you said, you kind of, once they see you and they see that you're good, you do kind of get that level of respect. And, it is cool, but it does kind of suck, too, that they weren't treating you well.
And I'm sure in that business it happens all the time. Like when you're doing because products get bought and sold. Pepsi had this for a while, and then it gets sold to Coke. Well, what people don't realize is, it's changing ownerships, but there's a lot of salesmen that are changing.
Yes.
And a lot of salesmen are changing what buildings they go into. So what happens is, it's in any business, you just got a little animosity. Someone says, our rep Jim was way better than you, when you first meet. But then what happens in that business, you open up, you go to the bar, you have some drinks, even without the stand-up. I probably would have became friends with those guys.
Yeah.
But it made it quicker.
Yes.
Them seeing me do stand-up, than a natural progression of getting along with people.
Yeah, I had a little bit of all of that at a previous job. I didn't put two and two together with the social media stuff, and I was very new into stand-up. So I'm throwing up a flyer for an open mic, I'm like, I'm doing this thing. And they kind of were like, oh, okay, where are you going with it? And I'm like, I've been doing it a year, and I'm not working towards my Netflix special, but I'm just like, and there was some questions that got brought up, and now I'm at I'm back in the nameless, faceless, cog in a wheel, and I was able to kind of fly under the radar until a few months ago I was at One Night Stands with Bob Zaney, and a woman from HR came out to the show, and I didn't know that she was there, and so I was the MC and I do my stuff, and for those who don't know, Bob is very, very much a crowd person, and so I'm in the back watching him, and he starts zeroing in on this woman, and she's like, yeah, I'm Tina, and I'm like, that voice sounds kind of familiar. What do you do, Tina? Oh, I'm in HR, and I was like, oh, and then he goes for her husband, and I was like, oh no, that's that Tina. Oh no. And so I was nervous until she came out and said, great job. And now that we're talking Christmas stuff, she's like, oh, you should do this. Oh,
that's good.
Can you do that? So it's interesting.
Well, I remember this one salesman was kind of giving me crap about it one time. I was in New York. We went out to lunch. He's like, oh, you're sure doing a lot of stand-up. And I said, well, you got 3 kids, right? He's like, yeah. I go, you coach like baseball, one of them, and then you're always going to their games and their practices.
Yeah.
You're doing that. What's the difference between what you're doing with your kids and what I'm doing with my time at night? There's no different. Mine looks different because it's entertainment, but yours is still away from your job. You're going to your kids' practice at 3:30. I know you are.
Yeah.
And you also do flooring on the side. When are you doing that? Oh, I'm doing that on the weekends. So you're probably going to bid a job on a Thursday afternoon. You're taking your time out of your day to go do that. There's no different.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? There's no difference. Just that one's entertainment and one's labor or whatever.
Exactly. Yep.
But people don't realize that they're doing stuff and everybody is now. Everybody's working from home now. Now it's the norm.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's kind of different. But it's a tough balance doing a full-time day gig and trying to do stand-up a lot at night and having a relationship like you were talking about. It's a lot.
It is a lot. But you find, if you really love it, you find a way to make it work, and you find a way to fit it into your lifestyle. And once you have that down, man, everything is smooth.
And that's what's great with stand-up. There's all different kinds of levels. Obviously there's the guys that are really kicking ass out there, and then there's the middle of the road guys that just do it maybe once a month or twice a month. Then there's guys and girls that do it, every other month. Well, whatever. There's different levels of comedians, and it doesn't matter as long as you're doing it and getting better at it and trying to get better at it. It doesn't matter how much you work, as long as you're trying to do it.
Yeah.
So that's what I say. I say everybody that try. That's why I give it up for every comedian that tries to do this. It's so tough,
Yeah.
And so to anybody that has the gall and the balls to get up there, I respect. I really do. And that's why
100%.
I love going to open mics myself, and I love going to try new stuff. And I think it's great. I think it's great to do that. And all the great ones do it. You hear about these guys going in and doing. Guys like Bill Burr and these guys, they're all doing 10 minutes at the Comedy Store to try something new. They're just like, this is a weird story or a cool story. I was out when I used to go to New York. I would for my meetings, I would take the subway into the city, and just like after our meeting was over with at 10 o'clock, I'd get on a taxi or go downtown and go to the Comedy Cellar. And one day I saw Nick DiPaolo down there, who I'd worked at Joey's, so I knew. And he saw me going down the stairs. I'm like, oh, you're on tonight? He goes, yeah. He goes, come upstairs after the show. Because if you've ever been to the Comedy Cellar, it's like a bar, restaurant upstairs, and then downstairs is a comedy club. Well, upstairs, way in the back, is like this table. It's been in movies and stuff where the comics sit around there. You can kind of see the TV with the stage, so you know when you got to go down and do your set. And at the table was Nick DiPaolo, Jerry Seinfeld, Chris Rock, and I think Jeff Ross was on that side. So that was the table. And I'm like, how you guys doing? And anyway, Nick goes, come over here, And I went over there. And Nick says, funny comic out of Detroit. And one of them mentioned like Ridley's or something. And then Jerry Seinfeld goes, can I run a joke by you? And I go, of course. And he did his Subway joke to me. He recited his, which became a joke in his act. I forgot what the joke was, but it was like, a 2-minute joke or a minute joke. And he just recited it. He goes, it's a new joke I'm working on, and I'm going to try it tonight. And nice to meet you, Sal. And that was it. I walked away. It was just a really cool little moment with Jerry Seinfeld. He just wanted to try his Subway joke.
That is very cool.
And it went into the joke ended up going in one of his sets on the Tonight Show, and I think it went into one of his specials. So joke that he recited.
It's one of the most interesting things to me as I've gotten more entrenched and met more people is exactly what you just said. It never stops. So it doesn't matter if you've been doing stand-up for a year or 30 years. There is always...
Or you have $100 million or $2.
Exactly.
Writing a joke is writing a joke.
And that's how it works. And it doesn't matter how good you think it is in your head until you say it out loud in front of an audience. And it doesn't matter. It's really fascinating.
That's why it's one of the greatest things of all time. There's nothing more exciting than writing something on paper or a napkin or whatever, and then trying it out for whether it's 20 people or 100 people.
Yeah.
Right.
There's just no better feeling of getting that 100 people to maybe all laugh at that line and go, all right, I got it. Maybe I found a little nugget,
The endorphins you get from that are just, it's incredible.
Great. Yeah, it's incredible. It's incredible.
Well, this has been
I had a blast, man.
Incredible
You had a
interview.
nice little setup here.
I really appreciate
I like
that,
how
man.
you guys do things. You guys are great show. You guys should watch every week, every month, or whenever you guys do.
Much
that.
appreciated.
We're going to take him down and shuffleboard as soon as we turn the cameras off.
Absolutely,
Yeah, really cool.
I want to say, is he the only one that hasn't sat there and like, yes.
I was looking at it, but I thought maybe you guys had a game going on. So I just screwed it up. So.
No, like everybody will sit there and be like, yeah, so, but you're the only one who has,
because he's in the middle.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he probably would have been like, hey, and, probably freaking took his 2x4.
This is great. I love this thing.
Well, we greatly appreciate having you on.
This is great.
Do you got any, website or anything or socials that you want to plug?
SalDemilio.com. I'm on Facebook. I'm on TikTok now. Check out Janetti's Hole in the Wall Theater. Check out thecomedyroom.com or The Comedy Room on Facebook. Those are all my fundraiser shows. Another place, CaptainJoe'sGrill.com out in Whitmore Lake. I do a couple shows a year out there. And just the places like you have your places that you do, I appreciate them giving us stage time. Every place that does stand-up comedy, I don't care if it's a little bar or an American Legion or Knights of Columbus or a big theater or casino, I appreciate everybody that has stand-up comedy. Thank you so much.
Oh, yeah, of course. Yeah. Absolutely. And anything you would like to plug that you got in the books right now?
Yeah, at Gonzaleza, Gonzaleeza, on all of the things, Instagram, TikTok, all that stuff, and that's where you'll see where I'm at.
Very cool. January 14th at Bearded Lamb Brewing Company in Plymouth, I will be hosting. You've got Kate Brindle as the feature, Cam Rowe as the headliner, and then on February 11th, you are going to have Mary Spencer as the guest host with Ella Horwedel as the feature and Carl Johnson as the headliner. Of course, I'll still be there working the door. Yeah, and please, like us on YouTube, subscribe to the channel. I want to get to at least above 15 subscribers before the end of the year.
Baby steps. Baby
steps.
Yes,
absolutely, yes. The more subscribers we get, then we can potentially make some money and blow $11,000 a month on steroids. All of us. We can all become libertarians.
That's my goal for 2023.
Absolutely. We'll all be fucking jacked as hell. Yeah. So, with that being said, I am jacked about this interview. It was fantastic. Thank you guys so much for watching. Take care.
Take care.